Shooting it raw?
Yes. Shooting it raw.
Oh, look at that. Because the way it is on my screen, it goes like basically the file goes from one to the next. And so it's basically the both of you with the same frame. You can see more of what that frame is like in 3 dimensions because it's more of like, you can see it's like metallic. It's enough to like stable enough to sort of stand up by itself. It's got some weight. It looks pretty hefty. Rox, you have a nice expression on your face. You're kind of about to step through. Charles, you're like that. Yeah, your foot is actually over the frame. You started to step through across it. You're breaking through the other side. Okay, so take it away.
Well, I think that's still part of the same kind of thing where breaking through the other side's a big deal. So it's funny because we've used that kind of an element in stories before, actually in the content of the stories, to allow characters to prove a given point that they could do something or they couldn't do something. And so we've actually used, break through to the other side. And so it just seemed like something that we could pair up with some of that marketing and even some of the teaching.
I'd echo the same thing. I mean, we picked those 2 photos because they're one's a corollary to the other. You're always going to be up against something that's how do I deal with this? Well, gather the facts, push on through, and it's gratifying. It's a gratifying moment to be able to say, I was stopped, but I persevered. I made it through, and you can look back through that doorway and say, it was easier than I thought, and yet harder than it looked. So that's the kind of duality that those 2 photos generate. It's like, okay, you're stopped, but was that you giving up, or was it really something that was beyond your capabilities? Mm-hmm. I would maintain that if you want something like that, that writing block, that you want to get to the next plateau in your career. You want to, that relationship to the blossom that you're thinking, well, it's stuck. You need to address those issues because you can get to the other side. You can look back and say, I thought I could, and I did. Mm-hmm.
And I think the other thing about that particular photo is you could see that the barrier was almost artificial, or actually artificial. But we didn't do one where you walked around it. Mm-hmm. You don't walk around your problems or your issues or whatever. You decide you're going to go through them. So there you go.
Okay. So what happens if we take that frame and put it vertically, right? So it's that whole question of, is there something of like a barrier being, usually when you think of a barrier, it's usually in your way as you're moving forward. So you have to push through it. Whereas I know this is just semantics and cutting hairs, but what happens if we put it as a vertical thing where it's like a glass ceiling? Because like a lot of what you're saying now is really about empowering others, right? So is this specific to being an author? Is it about, for example, being female in a male? Because you're a woman and a man together. So is there some kind of message in that, or
it's part of it, at least from my perspective? Yes, I am a woman. I've worked in technology, which has been predominantly male dominated for a very long time. But you can still use your education, use your experiences. To do lots of different things, to actually contribute and do good things. And so the characters that we have in our books, we actually are growing the empowerment side of our female characters. And so it's because it's the right timing to be able to do that and not offend everybody. Because, offending people right now is a pretty slippery slope in some cases. So. Mm-hmm.
Real easy to do, yeah. I got it. No, and my position, Brad, would be it's a partnership. Mm-hmm. It's no fun doing it on your own. I'll just be honest. Okay, so for as many years as we've written together, been neighbors, friends. It's good to have that partnership to say, okay, maybe I can help. Sometimes maybe you can help me.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what a partnership is, contributing to each other's success rather than, I got to get there to the top at any cost. To me, that's not, there's no honor in that. I want to be able to take somebody with me and have us succeed. And that's what the getting through the portal together was very symbolic to, I guess, our careers as writers.
Mm-hmm. Just because you kind of suggested this a little bit, but like the climate right now is of people being, we'll say, easy to offend, easy to like. There's a heightened sensitivity, right? It's in the news, and it's so much so that it's part of this conversation. So, do you feel like? So, for example, if you think about writers like Franz Kafka or Virginia Woolf or the classic like great writers who are just like, look, at the end of the day, you just have to sit in that room and write fearlessly and let the chips fall where they may. Like, how do we make sense of being an author today when there's this feeling like, oh, maybe you should self-censor? Is my question nonsensical?
No, your question is a very good question. It's very difficult to answer. So I know for me personally, I was brought up on a foundation to respect others. But I was also brought up that people are very different. That doesn't mean I don't respect you, but they are very different, and they do have characteristics that are atypical, that whatever the case may be, but you're in another part of the world. You're around people that are different nationalities. In fact, in Hong Kong, you're around people with lots of different nationalities. So you have kind of a soup of different people. But people get along as long as they're respectful and but that doesn't mean I have to agree or disagree with your lifestyles, your choices, but I do respect that you have a right to have them. I think that's the only way as writers we can do that. We're not going to please everybody. We're just not, and that's okay. If you don't want to read us, I mean, that's okay. We'd like you to, because you got to have a little bit of fun in life. But it's fiction. It's not nonfiction. We write fiction.
Okay, you just said it. So far, yeah, but there's no title of a book. Well, is there a book I can anchor my brain on? What's the book I need to go out and buy right now? What's the book?
Enigma Tracer.
Enigma Tracer. So is this part of the series or a series?
We started a brand new series.
Ah.
And so this is book 1 of the brand new series. And it is focused a little bit more on the younger adults. We don't write for kids. But it is written for a little bit younger, a little snappier, a little more fun, a little less formal. Charles, go ahead. I can tell you are itching to say something.
Go for it, Charles.
I would echo the sentiments. We took a fresh sheet of paper with the new series. Enigma airs, and the first book in that series is the Enigma Tracer. And so, what I like about it's that generational inheritance for the activities. I mean, here's an organization, the R Group. They're the high moral ground for 3 generations, and now they're sundowned. They have to turn over they need to turn over the reins of the business to the next generation, and the anxiety is always there in any generation that's saying, okay, I'm going to step out, I'm going to retire, I'm going to go do something else, and I want the world to be a better place for your efforts. Did I train you enough? Did I give you every opportunity to learn? Did I teach you everything you're going to need? And the answer is, of course not. Of course you can't do that, because there's not going to be the same scenarios that the next generation is going to run into. They're going to have to learn how to be able to think. And that's really what the message that the underlying message is. With all the training in the world, it'll give you an idea of what is possible under the old scenarios, but when you're fighting the bad guys in the cyber world, those are some of the most creative minds that you'll ever run up against, and they'll come up with some new innovation that you're going to have to say, WTF? How do I fix this? How do I get these people? That's Whiskey Tango Foxtrot for the sanitized version of it. But that's what the new series is about. Okay, they're learning. They're in charge, but here's something brand new. And yes, they're up against an old dog that's hunted and betrayed others and is a practiced evil individual that they think they can tackle, and yet he's been to this rodeo before.
Okay. So the name of the book again, just so I can burn it in people's heads?
Enigma Tracer.
Nice. Available pretty much everywhere. So
And in Audible. It's also in audio format now. The audiobook
excellent.
Just released about 4 weeks ago. Yeah.
Yeah.
So is life really a gift? Really? Can you make every second count? That's the whole point of the podcast. So if you like what you've seen and you're inspired, because that really is my mission, then please give it a like, subscribe, and share.
Shooting it raw?
Yes. Shooting it raw.